morning, everyone. My name is Peter Voderberg. I am the Chief of Broadband Ohio. We are going to wait just a few moments before we get started. I'm going to put up the agenda really quickly for everyone to be able to see, and then we will start the meeting momentarily.
Hi, Peter. Hi, team.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get started in just 1 second. We really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, so great to be with everyone. I'm looking at this agenda, and you got a lot of good stuff here to cover. I'm only going to provide the high-level overview to kind of know the strategic mission that Governor DeWine and I have for Broadband Ohio and how we're thinking about things. As I often say, you can't participate in the modern economy, education, or healthcare system without it. We have a good number of people. Estimates show maybe around 1 million people who don't have access to high-speed internet. That doesn't mention the fact that we have a lot of folks who can't afford it, who have poor quality and the like. And so those are problems that we feel compelled to try to solve. And to do that, we've prioritized $250 million out of our economic recovery package and another $40 million in an operating budget for a total of $290 million to try to tackle this problem. And we're waiting on the General Assembly to act. It's passed the House, it's pending in the Senate. I understand that when they come back from break, that they will take action on it. And when that happens, we will immediately go into action to try to begin to take requests for proposals to go out and accomplish that goal. But there's no one solution to this problem. There are a variety of technologies that we can apply to meet certain circumstances. We don't pretend to hold the answer to all of that. That's why we'll be asking for proposals that we can respond to on that front. And but there's a lot of exciting technologies out there. There are a lot of innovative people, and we just want to build the right kind of partnerships to make sure that we are achieving our goal. And I know that there's a lot of talk about more and more money coming from the federal level that will be landing locally from the last package. And now there's introduction today of a whole new magical package of trillions of more dollars that are going to come. And we'll see if they get there. But we have a plan in Ohio, and we're gonna proceed with that, and we're going to begin to expand access and literacy, digital literacy, and put ourselves in a better economic, educational, and health position as a result of it. So that's my overall worldview that I would like to share with you that Governor DeWine and I have laid out. We have an amazing team whose faces I see on this call who are going to fill in some more of the details for you, but appreciate everybody getting together today and appreciate the team's work. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor. We really appreciate you being here this morning to provide those words to us. We are very happy that you're
Peter,
here.
it's well into the afternoon.
It is definitely into the afternoon.
Did I just say
Peter.
morning? Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. I apologize, sir. I apologize, Director. That's the nerves talking a little bit.
It's just because Peter's planning on working until 9 o'clock tonight.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
right. So,
Thank you,
but thank you for that, Lieutenant Governor. We're very honored to have you here to give us those opening remarks. We truly appreciate it. So I would now like to introduce to you the Development Services Director, Lydia Mahalik, who will also provide to you a few introductory remarks as well. So Director Mahalik, take it away.
Thanks, Peter, and thank you, Lieutenant Governor. This certainly is a very exciting time for all of us, as you can kind of tell. You know, we're really happy to have Peter kind of helping us execute on this, and certainly grateful for the Lieutenant Governor's leadership and development certainly here to help support what we're trying to get done here. You know, at development, we're laser focused on community and economic growth, and a really essential part of that is access to broadband. As the Lieutenant Governor pointed out, broadband plays a really key role in attracting businesses to an area. It impacts the quality of life and the opportunities for Ohioans and our communities. And through Broadband Ohio, you know, we're taking a really simple approach to all of our programs and our projects. And collaboration is certainly key. And all of you who are with us here today are playing a big role in that. And our hope, as we're kind of bringing this alliance together, is that as we get to share what's going on with all of these different projects and different ideas, is that we can kind of share these best practices and share what's working and what's not. Because certainly, while we know what works maybe up here in Findlay, or maybe what works in Columbus, may not work down with our friends down in Southeast Ohio. And so discussing what those solutions might be for each area certainly might help create or generate a new solution. So your participation here in the Broadband Alliance is very important to us. And at these meetings, we really intend for them to allow you to provide some input as we help provide updates on our progress and give you an opportunity to collaborate with each other, but also with us. And so we're excited to kick off this meeting today and let you know that we've made a ton of progress. And with energy like Peter's, and someone who thinks that at 3 o'clock in the afternoon it is the morning, it's hard not to see that we have made a ton of progress. We've released the state's broadband strategy. We've created the Broadband Ohio office and are working to staff it up right now. We're a mighty group of 2 right now. We've mapped availability of broadband across the state, where it exists and where it doesn't. We've provided some really great resources for students during the pandemic across the state. And as the Lieutenant Governor pointed out, we've worked with our friends in the legislature to be able to identify funding for some really great broadband projects. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Peter to be able to provide some more details on our progress to date. But I really do appreciate all of you participating today. I'm really excited, as I said, about this partnership. And I know that together we're gonna be able to achieve our goals, which is bringing high-speed internet access to every Ohioan and building a best-in-class broadband network within the state. So with that, Peter, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and I appreciate all of your participation today.
Thank you so much, Director. We really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Got it right that time. So thank you for that introduction, and thank you to all the participants here today. Right now we are over 100, which is makes us very happy, because this is our opportunity to really talk about some of the things that Broadband Ohio is doing. So as the director said, my name is Peter Voderberg, and I am the chief of Broadband Ohio, which is an office within the Development Services Agency dedicated to bringing residential broadband to every Ohioan. So what is the Broadband Ohio Alliance? What is this group that we're really putting together right now that all of you are going to be a part of? Well, it is a group of public and private stakeholders that are working together to close the digital divide. We'll hold these open meetings quarterly to provide updates on the state's broadband expansion projects and provide an opportunity to discuss best practices and opportunities for collaboration. So what some of you might also be asking, though, is what is Broadband Ohio? And so I would like to share with you a little bit about what Broadband Ohio is. Give me 1 second. So as I said, Broadband Ohio is a division, an office within the Development Services Agency dedicated to bringing high-speed internet access to every Ohioan. It is dedicated to two principles. The first is bringing high-speed internet access to every Ohioan, but that doesn't mean that every Ohioan will want to have internet access. What we want to make sure is that no matter where you live, you have at least one provider who can give you internet speeds that meet the federal definition of high speed, which is currently set at 25 megabits per second download speed and 3 megabits per second upload. Now, some people will say, well, wait a minute, that's not the greatest speed, and we understand that, but by having it be at 25.3, we align ourselves with the federal definition, allow for a large versatility of technologies, and we're setting a floor. We want people to go faster, but we had to set the floor somewhere, and we chose to set the floor at the federal definition. The second is building a best-in-class broadband network in Ohio. Now, that doesn't mean we want Ohio to own the network. What it means is that the service is reliable and dependable wherever you happen to be in the state. Broadband Ohio is technology and provider neutral. We're interested in innovators and new technologies that bring internet into people's homes. Our broadband expansion of package of initiatives supports public-private collaboration, requires state and local buy-in, and values community involvement. Now, during the pandemic, people are using the internet to connect with their doctors through telehealth. Children are attending classes remotely or in a hybrid model, and many of us continue to use Zoom and Teams like we are today to connect with our colleagues instead of coming into the office. But in certain areas of the state, people are still waiting for these connections. There are two main issues that keep people from being able to be connected to the internet, one of availability and one of adoption. Availability is actually having a provider that offers internet access to your home. Large parts of Appalachia don't have anyone that can give a customer the federal definition of high-speed internet, but this problem also impacts some urban and suburban areas as well. In fact, you'll hear a little later from Dana Saucier from Jobs Ohio, who will talk a little bit about a suburban project we have that brought internet to a suburban area that didn't have access. Now, adoption has two parts. The first is digital literacy, which you heard the Lieutenant Governor speak a little bit about, and that includes everything from having a device to connect to the internet to understanding how that device works. The second is affordability. Many places have availability, but the price of the service keeps it out of reach for many Ohioans. To tackle these issues, Broadband Ohio has been working very diligently on numerous projects. So this is a brief timeline of the broadband accomplishments since March of last year. That is how long that we have been in existence. In fact, the Telehealth Pilot project that you see, that Lydia Brodegard will be talking a little bit about later on today, we actually had a press conference for that event in March. And Lydia can tell you that that press conference began with the Lieutenant Governor giving wonderful remarks and talking about the pilot project, and ended with the governor taking the stage and saying, ladies and gentlemen, I regret to inform you that the first case of COVID has been reported in the state of Ohio. So Broadband Ohio and the pandemic have kind of started at the same time. So we're about the same age. But we've been working diligently on this process since even before the pandemic started. As you can see, in January of 2019, this administration established Innovate Ohio, whose part of their mission is to actually go ahead and work on innovative projects, including broadband projects. We did some additional mapping efforts through the Connected Nation Ohio coverage maps. The Third Frontier gave about $1 million to improve those coverage maps. We produced an Odot and Innovate Ohio RFI, which was basically a request to have everyone come back to us and say, what could you do if you had assets to leverage throughout the state? And as a result of all of that, the broadband strategy was released in December of 2019, which really laid out what we need to do to make sure that broadband can be more accessible in the state. And one of those things was Broadband Ohio, which is why in March of 2020, Broadband Ohio was launched. So you'll see some of the other activities that we have all throughout the state. We've streamlined the Odot permitting process, which that permitting process allows you to have a single statewide entity to talk to if you need to get into the rights of way that Odot has. We also did a Broadband Ohio connectivity grant, which established $50 million for students for school districts, for school districts to be able to leverage so that they can provide their students with connected devices all throughout the state. That grant had over 900 school districts apply. Every applicant received some funding, and we already have some initial receipts coming in. So that project has been very successful. And to make that even more successful, we released an RFI through the Department of Administrative Services to create a transparent price list. There are 36 different companies that have everything from hotspots to HDMI cables on that. And it allows a school district to be able to go ahead and, if they're going to buy something like a hotspot or buy something like a Chromebook that's connected to the internet, they can see apples to apples comparisons between numerous different providers and be able to go ahead and get the best price for their school district. We've also donated 150 computers for PCs for People in December because we wanted people to have digital literacy access to otherwise to be able to go to the Department of Administration made a decision to say things are different. People need these computers. And so instead of going there, they went to a refurbisher who is now putting those computers back out into the community. And the other thing I would really like to talk about before I hand it over to our first presenter, is the Marx Tower Pilot Project. So the Marx Tower Pilot Project, which is actually closing this Friday, was launched in January of 2021. It's a partnership between the Department of Administrative Services and the Developmental Services Agency. DAS has refinanced all of the Marx towers throughout the state of Ohio, making them available for private companies to use when trying to broadcast an internet signal. Now, what DSA is doing is offering a grant to anyone who wants to locate it on 6 towers. And this is a map of our projects. You can see them down here. DSA is offering a grant to anyone who wants to locate on 6 towers, 2 in Jackson County and 4 in Scioto County. Grant winners will not be required to pay any money to locate on these towers. And we want to thank Lou Von Thayer with the Innovate Ohio board, who's helping us with a second round where we're looking to make a decision on how to move forward in phase 2 with the Marx Tower pilot projects throughout the state. So you can see these are the other project. The Columbus pilot project is a project we're working on. The city of Columbus is doing an affordability project for some low-cost areas to make sure that they can receive broadband services in the home, including some telehealth. And so that project we are supporting to make sure that they can use the funds that we have for some telehealth services. The only other thing that I wanted to share really briefly, I know when I say really briefly, I talk quite a bit, is the mapping effort. So you see up there on the screen, the 25-3 map for the state of Ohio that we have been able to put together. The state is continuing to upgrade our maps so that we can make sure that we are getting services to people who lack them. You can see the open areas of the state are areas where that lack high-speed internet services, and we're working with others, including Ookla, on speed test data to be able to make extremely accurate maps to make sure our projects are targeting those people who need the internet the most. And with that, there will be an opportunity at the end of all of this session to be able to have a Q&A with the presenters as well as myself. If you would like to have that Q&A, if you would like to have an opportunity to ask a question, please type it into the chat. And then Patrick Smith, who is my assistant chief, or myself will read them aloud and then either give them over to the presenters or we'll answer it ourselves. If you would otherwise like to be able to contact Broadband Ohio specifically, this is our email address, broadbandohio@development.ohio.gov. We'll have that up at the end again in case you would like to have that email address. And otherwise, that is what Broadband Ohio is doing today. And we are hoping to do more. There are many other projects that are coming online over the next couple of weeks, and we hope that that you will all be a part of those, or that you all be as excited as we are when those projects come online. And we'll continue to talk to you about the wonderful things that the staff here is doing. So with that, I am going to stop sharing, and we're going to have partner presentations for some of the folks to talk about some of those wonderful projects that we have been working for. Our first project is the Riverside School District Community Connect project. I'm going to be introducing to you Scott Mann, who is the superintendent of Riverside Local School District, and Casey Sorensen, who is the CEO of PCs for People. Scott will begin the presentation, and then we'll pass it over to PCs for People. So with that, Superintendent Mann, please take it away.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
We sure can.
And can you see the screen just fine?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So thank you for having me on here, Peter, and I'm really excited to be here because this whole project has given our district an opportunity to actually provide internet for our people. And I got a few talking points. So for the original problem for Riverside Local Schools, we were in the southwest corner of Logan County. And when we shut down last year, when the schools shut down, we immediately saw a huge problem. We saw a huge problem with how we deliver education to our students. And when we do have Chromebooks 1-to-1 in our district, but when we passed them out, we had a lot of difficulty delivering education on our Chromebooks with the quality of the internet in our area. And I applied for the grant and was lucky enough to receive some monies on that, and started contacting local businesses around here. And I kept getting the kickback is we don't have fiber there. Putting fiber in is very costly. So I was down to one option, and he just spoke to us. So I looked up who's the chairman. I sent an email, said, please help. Peter responded and said, let's put together a video conference. And he started putting partners in there. And some of the key partners were like BroadbandOhio, Ornet, PCs for People, Woco, who is our A site. They do all our progress book stuff and everything. So all these people came together, and I want to really highlight that, because Riverside local schools on their own could not have done this project. They could not have got it done. But one of the things that we all figured out is we couldn't get fiber to our community, but fiber was here at the school. So when fiber was here to the school, we started talking about, and a lot of smart people were on that call, using our fiber to broadcast to others. So we had a monthly or every week or every 2-week meetings. I can't remember, Peter, but we met a lot, and we really came down to a plan to where we can all come together. And when I say that all come together, it really does take everybody rowing the same way. You need a lot of partners to make this happen, and nobody, kept anybody out of their sandbox. They said, whatever it takes to make this happen. And I'm not a person that took no for an answer very well. That's why I emailed Peter, and he hooked us up. And when we did this, we were able to use the grant money to create an infrastructure to provide high-speed internet for our communities in Logan'sville, DeGraff, and Quincy. So Quincy is about 5 miles from the school. We serve these 3 villages. That'll be a little later, but Logan'sville, and Peter showed you that map earlier, and it had zero coverage. It could not get anything. And I will tell you, I would be amiss if I didn't mention our community and how they have jumped on and said, hey, do you need to put a repeater on my land? Do you need to put a tower here? We're here to help you to spread this out. And people, churches, everybody are really wanting to jump in on this. And I think it's going to continue to grow over the next year a lot. And as we talk about this, I'll give you an update. This year with snow and stuff, usually after 5 days of calamity days, we have to make up days. Because of this internet capability, we had remote days where the kids had their Chromebooks at home, and we had them check into class just like their regular class schedule. And our teachers were able to provide education over high-speed internet to most everybody. Because in Quincy, along with this grant, we bought hotspots for each of those kids that aren't reached by this internet that we have in DeGraff right now. So all of our kids had the opportunity to do that. And basically, we were eliminating barriers. We were knocking down barriers for our community. And I have heard nothing but great things. And now that the weather's turning nice and everything, we should be able to expand this a lot quicker, and just be patient with it. It does, you have to check off boxes and really get through it. But we had the lieutenant governor here that came and helped us kick this project off, and I'm totally indebted to him. And I thank him and the governor for giving us the opportunity to provide this, because it really is important in a rural community to have this. And so the last thing I'll say, to not take up a bunch of your time, is a group like PCs for People, somebody had to step up to say, we'll give it a try. And this group is basically centered in Ohio. They're out of Cleveland. And they just would drive 3.5, 4 hours every time we needed something done to get something done. So I cannot say enough about these guys and how much they helped us get this set up, and how they continue to help us getting set up. So with that being said, all the technical stuff that you're going to hear, I'm going to hand it over to PCs for People and Casey, who's going to give you more of a presentation at this time. And thank you, Peter, for letting me get on here and kind of tell our story. And I'll be willing to answer any questions later.
Thank you so much. And we'll hand it over to Casey Sorensen with PCs for People to be able to share a few remarks as well. Thank you, Superintendent Mann, and Casey, go ahead and take it away.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're thrilled to be involved in the project. Share my screen here.
Perfect.
All right, and before I jump into the actual project, I wanted to give everyone a quick background on PCs for People. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit. Our model has been built as sustainable social enterprise. We do computer recycling for around 2,000 businesses, refurbish those computers, and over the last 22 years, we've connected around 450,000 people in all 50 states. As was mentioned, our local headquarters is out of Cleveland, and we want each office to have impact in about a 5-hour circle. So our teams and trucks do a lot of driving across the state to impact both rural and urban people get connected to technology. In 2013, a growing number of our customers were asking us for help getting internet. So we decided to move from just doing computers to also launching our own internet offering. We've learned a lot over the last 8 years about what it takes to create a successful digital inclusion program. And we now offer computers, internet, repairs, ongoing support, and digital literacy training. And it takes each one of those pieces at a price point people can afford to successfully connect thousands of homes. Many of us take for granted the connectivity or having a computer or having a phone, but there's a huge demand for low-cost devices and low-cost internet. 60% of the families that come to our program have never owned a computer before. So the access to information, education, and skills is a new world of opportunity. And you can see in this picture, this is a COVID-safe distribution event in Columbus, so not too far from the project in the graph there, just after the pandemic started. And you can see our trucks circled there off in the distance. You've likely seen similar images on the news for food banks or COVID test sites, but there is a similar need and demand for technology. When we learned that the state was unable to find partners to build low-cost last-mile networks and there was this need in DeGraff, we jumped at the opportunity. Personally, I grew up in rural Montana, so I'm always eager to bring more resources to a rural community. And the timing was perfect to leverage a new program opened up by the FCC called Citizen Broadband Radio, or CBRS. CBRS leverages spectrum the Navy was using for radar and other communications. But the FCC realized there were not a lot of Navy ships in places like DeGraff, so this valuable spectrum was sitting largely unused across most of the US. The other creative thing the FCC did with this is instead of needing to buy upfront millions or billions of dollars worth of spectrum, CBS allows for general access or shared spectrum usage. We pay a little bit per subscriber each month, and this allows smaller ISPs like PCs for People a way to have interference-free wireless communication without the large upfront investment. The result is technology that can cover around a 2-mile circle and deliver 50 megabit speeds. So we talked about broadband and the mapping across Ohio. We're about twice the broadband speeds with unlimited data for $15 per month. So we raised our hand to do this project in January of this year, and we needed to design and deliver a working solution. One of the biggest challenges to delivering a solution is the fiber connectivity. And as was mentioned, we found that OrNet, the state of Ohio's fiber network, was already at the school. So we now have a high-speed fiber connection at the press box at the DeGraff High School football stadium. From this site, we use 2 wireless relays to connect 2 more towers, one in a nearby farm and another at a local cemetery. Each tower has 4 antennas, allowing 360-degree coverage of about 2 square miles. Customers interested in the service get an indoor home modem, similar to a cable modem, and a SIM card, just like you would get for your cell phone. You take the modem home, plug it in, and as long as you're in range of a tower, it'll automatically connect, and now that home is online. This allows us to more quickly bring the service to market, since the truck roll is not needed for every single new customer. The modem also provides Wi-Fi for our household's wireless devices and wired connections with an Ethernet cable to a computer or gaming console. The network has been built and we're now testing and tweaking coverage to make sure we have coverage across the entire district. And the next 2 months will be ready for 600 homes to be connected to this network. On the left-hand side, there's a picture of the Logansville Farm site, which is connected with a 2.5-mile wireless bridge to the football stadium. On the tower, there are 4 nodes, which convert the internet connection into LTE. And the larger rectangle boxes in the picture are the antennas that send the signal to each home. Prior to building this site, the kids in the area had 1.5 meg speed, and now they have access to the 50 megabyte download wireless speed. So that's a 3,000% increase in speed for about 78% less than what they were paying before. So again, we're thrilled to be involved in this project. Our goal is digital inclusion, and this is a great example of the community coming together to deliver service. So thank you.
Thank you so much. This is this is one of our exciting projects. I can't stress enough that this is, when we talk about those 2 issues, the adoption and affordability, how important it is to do them both when we can. And here, not only are we talking about availability, right, that you actually have the capability of getting someone now that you couldn't get before, but it is very affordable. And Casey, if I remember correctly, it is $15 a month. Is that correct?
That's correct. $15 a month for unlimited speeds, no throttling, no caps, anything like that. We want true unlimited multi-devices at a time service going out to the homes.
That is amazing. And to put this into perspective as well, one of the great things about this project and many of our other projects, which Lydia Brodegard will talk about in just a second for our Telehealth Pilot project, is we are creating blueprints with our partners so that other school districts can actually learn from what we're doing and be able to replicate it. And we're hoping to have our next replicated school district that utilizes this same technology announced here in the next few weeks. So that's something that we will keep this group informed of, and we look forward to announcing. So thank you, Superintendent Mann. Thank you, Casey, so much for your presentation. We really appreciate it. And again, if you have any questions for the 2 of them, feel free to put those questions in the chat, and we will ask those questions at the end of everyone's presentations. At this point, I would like to turn it over to start talking about our Telehealth Pilot project. The Telehealth Pilot project is with the Switzerland of Ohio School District, and to speak to it, we have Lydia Brodegard, who is the Ohio Valley Educational Service Center Director of Special Education. Lydia and I have been working on this project since March. She is a great partner in this, and we're very excited to have her here today to be able to give this presentation. So Lydia, take it away.
Thank you. All right, can you guys see that? Yep.
Yes,
very
looks
good.
great.
All right, so good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me and allowing me to share some success in Southeast Ohio. As Peter said, I am the Director of Special Education for Ohio Valley Educational Service Center, which covers 12 districts in Southeast Ohio. When some of my districts heard that we were going to be able to participate in the Alliance today, I had a dozen different success stories that they wanted to share, which was really back around the Broadband Ohio Connectivity grant. But for now, we're going to talk about the pilot project. So the map that Peter showed you earlier, where there was that place, Monroe County, part of Belmont County that didn't have much connectivity, that's where we are. So that's why we're part of this project. I put a little bit of facts up here so you understand how big this district is, which, by the way, I am in Switzerland District today, and I'm actually in one of the telehealth rooms at Woodsfield Elementary, where my children go to school. So this is, I came here for better connectivity, better than my office. So I just wanted to share that part. This district consists of 8 buildings. 4 buildings serve preschool through 8. 1 serves preschool through 12th grade. 2 serve 9 through 12, and we have a career center that serves grades 10 through 12. We are the largest district geographically in the state of Ohio, covering 546 square miles. If you would like to drive from one end to the other of our district, it would take you about an hour and 20 minutes. So you are at the highest high here in Woodsfield, and if you're down in Powhatan or maybe at River Elementary, you are on the Ohio River. So we have lots of area to cover, and we have not much internet. and not much cell phone service. So our schools lie in many different towns, and we only have around 2,000 students, but they needed more access. So to give you a little bit, what we knew going into this project was this wasn't just for broadband, which we were very happy for, but we also knew that we had a behavioral and mental health problem going on. So per the county trends data for Monroe County, we knew that our behavioral health was the worst, rated worse than psych-related admits. And you can see that 2017, it was 9.4, 2018, 17.7, and 2019 back down to 7.1, which, as Peter told you before, that's based on last year's data. And that's when this pilot project really got rolling for our district. And then on the other side, you can see that even though our area has not a lot of people, we cover a lot of ground, our rates in Monroe County were very close to the state's rates in depression, anxiety, and ADHD. And in addition to those areas of behavioral and mental health, we knew that less than 45% of our families had high-speed internet access, and even less of them had cell phone service or a cell phone. So that was a problem. So what happened is that we looked at what all projects that we had, and many of them are brought because of our state and Governor DeWine and Lieutenant Governor Houston. So I just listed some of them. The broadband connectivity grant just started it for us. Our IT person here was wonderful. She had already worked with E-Rate and got almost all of our students coming into the pandemic had a 1-to-1 ratio for Chromebooks or some sort of device, but we couldn't use them. With the broadband connectivity grant, we were able to give, I think the last time I talked to Ms. Hill, out of all of the families, only 2 did not have a Wi-Fi box, and that was their choice. It was available to them, but they didn't want it. So everyone had at least access to what we could provide through the broadband connectivity. We were also able to give guest spots out of all of our buildings, which was part of the telehealth project of increasing our redundancy lines, connecting to the highest speed that we could in each of our 8 buildings. And that was all part of that project. So we brought all of our resources together and really looked at how we could help serve our students the best. So how did we respond to all of that gleaming data that I just shared? We were able to make sure that the 5 case managers that are at each of our 5 elementary schools were able to connect with our students. We have a prevention specialist that works just school prevention at the elementary level. We have 2 prevention specialists at the high school level. We have 2 school-based counselors through Southeast that serve all the school districts. Prior to this project, if there were a crisis at, say, on this campus in Woodsfield, that provider may have to drive anywhere from 25 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes to get to the student in crisis. And that was a problem. If we needed to do a direct admit, that was added time. And then we have no hospitals here. We have no behavioral mental health here. They drive 2.5 hours to Columbus or an hour and a half to Marietta. So this was just more time that we were essentially wasting, that we needed to be able to provide those students with what they needed. We have prevention and wellness funding that can help support this. We had the K-12 prevention funding that can support this, but really the Telehealth Pilot project funding is what brought this all together. So we kind of Peter talked about the press conference. You can see on the screen, Lieutenant Governor, and I'm in the background, we were talking about this wonderful pilot project on March 9th and what it was going to do for our area. Little did we know that they were going to cut the cameras and tell us to have a seat, because Governor DeWine and Dr. Acton were coming in to tell us that the pandemic was here, that COVID was in Ohio. But even more impressive is the picture on the other side that you can see the Lieutenant Governor and myself talking. This was February 4th. So through shutdown, lockdown, not being able to be where we needed to be, we went live on February 4th with the pilot project and was able to show the Lieutenant Governor how it's working in each of our buildings. The picture that you see now is actually at Swiss Hills Career Center. You can see the Lieutenant Governor looking up on the screen. He is talking with Rebecca, who's in the room with him. He is connected virtually to Skyview, which is about we'll say 40 minutes from there with Shanda, which is another Southeast counselor. And within 60 seconds, we had the connection up and we had people where we needed them to be. So this was live, and this is at each of our buildings. And this is also when we said that phase 1 was on time through a pandemic. We made it happen thanks to Peter and his crew. And what was going to happen next? So we're not finished. Phase 2 is starting. So what do we have now for our students because of the pilot project? We have 8 buildings that are connected at higher speeds. We have increased redundancy. We have telehealth rooms like the one I'm in, designated areas for the counselors at all of the locations. Our Wi-Fi connections, we have those increased in the students' homes. Students have devices. We have access to behavioral health. And we are now progressing into phase 2, which is to expand the connectivity and more connections for our students and families, more cell phone service, more connectivity out in the community. And that's what we're still working for. Like the Lieutenant Governor said earlier, and Peter's has heard me said, that this helped us bring behavioral and mental health quickly and more accessible to our students. But it has also brought us greater, we've been taking virtual field trips at these buildings. My son and daughter sat in their room and did a virtual campus tour at a college. They're doing more of these labs that are available that otherwise in Monroe County we would not be able to do. And I do see that more jobs will be coming. Our students have access, they have knowledge to look at what the new jobs, what is out there for them, and what they can go ahead and learn and bring back to Monroe County. So as Peter said, we have the blueprint, which I did put the link here. I can tell you out of the 12 districts that I serve, Switzerland is the place to be as far as this connectivity and this telehealth project. And I have 2 that are chomping at the bit. Lydia, when can we do this? When can we do this next? And this blueprint brings it all together. This is on Innovate Ohio. It talks a little bit about our pilot project. And then over here is the Telehealth in Schools blueprint. I believe we just updated that again in February, and our handbook, the guidebook that the Switzerland staff are using here, will be updated soon with that, with all of the details of what we've done behind the scenes that aren't just techie and aren't just behavioral stuff. So that's all I have about the pilot project. And again, thank you all for all your hard work, and it is greatly appreciated here in Monroe County.
Thank you so much, Lydia. It's such an exciting project. We're so glad, it took a lot of hard work and dedication on your staff's part as well to make sure that this came up and running. And it was an amazing job that you were able to do over the course of this year, even in the midst of the pandemic. So thank you so much for your hard work as well. And next we have, to talk about the Starlink pilot project, we have Dana Saucier, who is the Vice President and the Head of Economic Development for Jobs Ohio. So we are going to transfer presentership over to Dana, and he can take it away and talk about Starlink. Dana, the presentation is yours.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Lieutenant Governor and Director Mahalik, for an opportunity to share what I found was a fun project. And Peter, just to verify, you can see the slide that I have flashed.
We can. It's not in presenter view though. It's in just like the.
Does that make? Oh.
Nope. Now it's still in the.
Okay, can you still see it though?
Yeah, we can still see it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. Hopefully, there's not a lot of words. And by the way, I'm going to go through these fairly quickly. But so just the background on this for those that haven't tracked this, technology is also playing a significant role in closing the digital divide. And we are, of course, we have at Jobs Ohio, one of our sector focuses aerospace and aviation, and so we track these things in terms of job creation. But here was an opportunity during COVID to take this amazing new technology that Elon Musk and SpaceX, obviously the founder of Tesla, that probably a little bit more well known, but they throughout the COVID crisis had been launching satellites, and I'll show you a little bit about it. And what they're doing is they're revolutionizing being able to broadcast an internet signal from outer space. And that's not necessarily new. There's been things like HughesNet and others. And I'll share why this is different and unique and how it's ending up in a much better sort of result. just to share that. So every single week they had been there's a launch almost every single week that's launching 60 satellites at a time, and we engaged conversations with SpaceX, and thanks again to the Lieutenant Governor because he lent his access and got on the first phone call that we had. And you can imagine, everybody is clamoring to be part of anything that's new and helps bring, kind of closes the digital divide. But we wanted to make sure that we chiseled out Ohio as a pilot site, and they fortunately agreed. And so together with Peter and communities, we put together this program, and we talked to them first in December 2020, but one of the things they said, and we wanted to turn it on right then, and they said, well, wait a minute, our satellites are not seeing Ohio yet. They were continuing to build out the system. So we had an agreement to do the pilot, but we had to wait essentially for them to put the satellites up, and they have done that. And so what we been working with Broadband Ohio and Peter, we supplied them, I don't know, Peter, what was it, 6 or 7 different census blocks of folks from all over the state. So some in Appalachia, some in various, but we tried to be inclusive. And Starlink was the one that selected this pilot in Union County. And Jobs Ohio funded the entire, because again, it was a pilot and we didn't know what to expect per se. So we wanted to make sure. So we, working with Peter, we worked to select 90 households and 10 businesses. We wanted to kind of get a good cross section, and selected the Starlink selected Union County, which is outside of Marysville, but it was an area that was underserved and in some cases not served at all. And I'll share some pictures because I personally went out there because I wanted to live the consumer experience. The program is 12 months. We saw speeds of 100 to 150 megabytes of download speed. And I would tell you, at one of the residences that we went to, and by the way, all of the children were doing remote schooling at the time, and both spouses were working at home, and they reported that if they were all on the internet, kids trying to take school classes and then had a business call, it would literally crash the system because they were getting 3 or 4 megabits of download speed. The cool part of this is Starlink has already made plans to increase this to 300 megabits of download speed. So we should hope to see that increase soon. For those that don't know, this is what it's SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket. It's really amazing technology. In the capsule, there's 60 of these satellites. So at each launch, they are putting up 60 new ability to connect to the internet. And then what's amazing is the rocket is actually reused, refurbished and reused for another launch. So very efficient, which is how he's able to, kind of offer this. There's an array of satellites, but eventually these signals have to get to the ground, and they end up being backhauled, not to get into the technology, but it ends up backhauling through the normal internet and fiber optics. But they're able to build out an array of these ground-based stations, coupled with, and I'll share this satellite mesh. And so that they work together, and you can see the connectives, they work together to hand off, anytime you're on the internet and that traffic, and those satellites are obviously moving very quick. They're handing them off to each other and then interacting with the ground stations. Now, some people, and we had this question, why is this different than HughesNet or one of these others? And not to be, HughesNet's a fine service, but what makes this faster is the typical SpaceX satellite is operating at a very low orbit. It's about 550 kilometers versus a typical satellite like you might get from DirecTV, which is about 35,000 kilometers. And that lower orbit allows much faster speeds and quicker response time. So when you click the mouse, there's a lot that's going on there. That speed is truncated quite a bit. Another thing we heard, and I have DirecTV, and anytime it snows or rains hard, I lose signal. They said, what about all that? And it operates at a very unique frequency that allows the signal to punch through cloud cover, snow, rain. And then they also built some unique features into the dish itself. They're planning to launch up to 12,000, but they did admit that over time, you can imagine to cover the planet, they said it would be possible to see as many as 20 or 30,000 satellites launched over time. So here's some actual unboxing pictures. So it came in a box. Unbelievable. You didn't even have to plug anything together. Literally everything's attached. You just had to take the stem of this and stick it on the pole. And then my colleague Ted Griffiths, who's on this call, took this picture because it's hilarious. These are the directions. There's no words. You literally take it out, bring it outside, you plug it into the wall and download the app. And it was literally that easy. And within it actually took longer to take it out of the box than it took to get it to configure and get, like I said, 100 plus megabits of download speed. So fascinating. And then last slide here is actual picture of, so this gentleman actually just took it outside and stuck it on his deck and pointed it, generally in the direction it configured itself. It has a motor inside, and it essentially aimed itself and optimized itself. And then what's amazing is there's actually a built-in heater. So in the wintertime, if you get heavy snow or whatever, it'll heat up and clear itself off. This is a different installation. A gentleman decided to have an installer put it more, mount it more permanently, so it could be just sitting in your yard or sitting, on a deck or whatever. But then, you obviously have, like DirecTV and others have the option to do more of a hardwire, but it's not required. And so anyway, I understand it's 90 homes and 10 businesses, but we felt it was important to also pull and push the technological side of things and really not leave a stone unturned. I will report, Peter, that I was driving out near Plain City and saw others that weren't in the pilot. Actually, I saw more SpaceX dishes in people's yards. So I know it is taking off, and I appreciate, Peter, your partnership and the Lieutenant Governor and everybody that helped us, separate and differentiate Ohio, so that that SpaceX would do this pilot here. And it's my knowledge that I think it's the largest pilot of its kind that they've done. So a great first for Ohio. And I hope to see this technology grow and help on the strategy that we're all here to, which is to get everybody connected. So I'll stick around. I'm happy to answer questions if anyone has any. And thanks again, Peter, for your partnership and chance to speak.
And thank you so much. This is such a great and exciting project. This has been, as we said, we're talking about innovators here, right? What an innovative way of getting it, into the home with the low orbit satellites. This has been very great. So thank you so much, Dana. And Ted, I know you're on as well. Thank you guys so much. Your partnership has been crucial in getting the SpaceX pilot project up and running. So thank you for that.
Great, thank you.
So those are our presentations really quickly about what Broadband Ohio is doing, but we know that getting internet into everyone's homes takes more than just what Broadband Ohio can do. Many of the private companies throughout the state have the same mission of trying to bring broadband service to as many Ohioans as possible. And so what we would like to do is to highlight a local company who has been doing a great deal of work in helping out and bringing a couple of projects online to expand broadband throughout the state. So right now, for our first industry activity spotlight, I would like to recognize David Kramer with Cincinnati Bell. He's going to talk a little bit about the Butler Rural Electric Cooperative Partnership, as well as the Montgomery County Digital Equity Initiative. So we'll give David Kramer presenter authority, and then we will then take it away.
I would say good morning like you did, Peter, because I do that all the time, so don't feel bad.
Thank you.
But I will say good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate the time here to talk about some of the initiatives that Cincinnati Bell has been doing over the last year or so. But my first question is, it looks like I'm sharing my screen. Can you guys all see it?
Yep, we can.
Yes, we can.
Well, Cincinnati Bell, we're down, obviously down in Southwest Ohio. we've been working in a large group of us as a team. We've been working over the last year and a half, trying to find partnerships to expand broadband in our operating area. Today we're a fiber first company. We're leading with fiber to the prem technology today. We've had various technology paths, evolution paths to get here, but we are a fiber, we do believe in fiber first strategy because we believe it provides the best long-term benefit and cost-effective approach to get broadband into areas. However, like many people on this call have alluded to, it is expensive. It is somewhat time consuming at time, and it's not necessarily available to everybody everywhere. So one of the things we've been doing over the last year or so is trying to find partnerships and finding synergies on opportunities where we can expand our fiber footprint with partners and provide the high-speed internet people are looking for. So one of the first ones we did, and we learned a lot on this one, was Butler Rural Electric Cooperative. This is a electric cooperative in northern Butler County, Ohio. It is a cooperative that straddled Cincinnati Bell telephone service area. About half of it was in and about half of it was out. What we found and how we kind of came across this partnership was they approached us to basically do an electric grid modernization project. They wanted better control of their facilities, and they had about 76 switching facilities, substations that they wanted to better monitor and manage. So that's kind of really how the conversation started out. And then during the course of the conversation, the question became, it's like, hey, our cooperative members, a good part of them live in areas that don't have any internet. They were largely unserved. A few were underserved, but largely unserved. The cooperative had about 10,000 members. About 5,000 of them we already served with one of our products, but that left about 5,000 members that did not. So part of the partnership is we were looking to extend fiber facilities to Butler Rural Electric's substations and switching locations and stuff like that. Basically what we identified over time was there was about 2,100 homes that we could pass in conjunction with that fiber build and allow cooperative members to have high-speed internet. The challenge was there was a rural area, not a lot of densification, and as you can imagine, the costs were very, very high. Typically 2 to 3x of what we would typically spend on a door. So, but however, in conversations with Butler Rural, they took the lead on this, which, was, kudos to them, and said, well, hey, can we help you fund this fiber build? How can we, our cooperative members want this, we're a cooperative, we've got some money to spend, how can we help you build these doors? And, over the course of talking to them, we, like I said, we identified about 2,100 doors that we could build, and we eventually reached a partnership agreement with them in December of, really January of 2020. But one of the things we learned out of this partnership was kind of at the bottom here is, and we're doing this with probably about a dozen other communities today as we speak, is, these communities are approaching us and saying, hey, we need help with broadband. We understand, especially with the pandemic, we understand it's expensive. We understand that you might not get here for a while, but how can we help you? So, kind of down at the bottom there, we have a pretty simple process and we're having a lot of luck with it. We go into a community and we learn its landscape, whether it's out of territory or in territory for us. We look at options, we look at facilities, we consult on funding, and this is all very upfront. We design a solution, we build it. So with Butler Rural Electric, it took about 6 months to kind of get through this process, but in about a 12 to 14 month time frame, we will have built approximately 2,100 doors, by June of this year for Butler Rural Electric. There's an additional 3,000 doors on the radar, and we are working with them constantly looking for funding options and anticipate with some of the federal funding and maybe state funding coming down the pike here in 2021, that we would further this into phase 2 of the partnership. You can kind of read the quote from Mike Sims. He's the general manager of Butler Rural Electric, and I'll point out he is the general manager, but we did not get him service. He constantly is asking it from us. But But it has been life-changing for this area. We probably received at least a half a dozen unsolicited letters from school kids saying how amazing, you've made this internet experience, because they really didn't have anything prior to that. So, this is kind of one of our approaches that Cincinnati Bell has taken across our footprint, and even we have an edge out strategy where we're looking for areas just outside our traditional ILEC footprint. And we're looking to partner with communities, with counties, cities. It doesn't really matter the size. We have a solution that can fit everything, but it's one of the partnership. The partnership is really, developed into the key aspect of it, because typically what we're seeing in the partnership and what's making it attractive for the communities is, for every dollar of funding that the community puts up, Cincinnati Bell Telephone is typically putting 2 to 3 times that amount of funding on the table. We call it a gap funding approach. Well, really, the partnership exists in terms of the partner basically funding the gap, between what a door is economically for us today and what the true cost of the door is. So it's a very upfront process, a very open process, and we're charging not charging. The partnership is based on a per door cost. So it's a really great model that we've been using down here. A lot of success. Talking to lots of communities today. It's really delivering a really good service to unserved and underserved areas of the community. The next one I wanted to talk about briefly was, sometimes, fiber is not necessarily the best choice. And we realize that, even though we're a fiber first company, sometimes the economics just do not allow you to take fiber to every location. One of the things we learned on really early last year in March was, once COVID hit, the amount of people that were reaching out to us directly saying, hey, I need better internet. I need to do something different, and it was a very overwhelming conversation, because as much as you would love to get internet to everybody, you really just cannot do it financially and in a timing fashion that we were faced with the pandemic. So last year, one of the other initiatives we had along with our fiber was our Unicity program. That's our smart city program. We worked with many agencies, and this is one of them, Montgomery County, to try to do some digital equity. How do you get internet into affordable communities that essentially had nothing today? We did last year in 2020, we put up 800 public Wi-Fi access points in the second half of the year in probably over a dozen different communities. Some were 2 or 3. The Montgomery County initiative up here was close to 300 public Wi-Fi access points within the community to provide some level of broadband to the residences of those communities. It started out again with a public-private partnership. We were approached about a need. So largely speaking, we started talking with Montgomery County, and this is Montgomery. If you don't know where Montgomery County is, it is basically where the city of Dayton is located. And we started working with the county to identify the areas of greatest need. Where do they want to do this? As you can imagine, a lot of us where students were located. How can we best benefit the students, and how can we get students access to internet that they don't have today? This was a fairly quick discussion. It started in about July of 2020, and by December 31st, we had installed 300 access points. I believe I'll show you in a minute, in about 4 or 5 communities, and we flipped them on the air the first week in January. So, it was to get 300 access points up and installed with fiber, 1 gig fiber backbone backhaul to each one of these access points in about 90 days. We couldn't take fiber to every home, but we could basically take fiber to a building or a central location to provide free public Wi-Fi for these locations. The property owner we partnered with in Dayton was Greater Dayton Premier Management. But one of the key aspects of this, well, Cincinnati Bell Telephone designed, built, and built the fiber network and all that, funding, the monthly funding required was one of the tough challenges in the beginning. And a group of companies in Dayton, CareSource being the lead one, they jumped up and basically said, hey, look, we're interested. We want to fund this, because like the lady spoke to earlier, they had telehealth needs. They wanted to get telehealth into these communities. A lot of different organizations, like I said, CareSource is by far the biggest one in the Dayton marketplace, is on this program, and they're supplying the monthly funding. This is for 60 months. So this wasn't just something for 12 months or 36 months. This is something that is funded for the next 60 months for these communities. And that's one of the keys we're finding out is you've got to find, we can build it, through the grants, and whether it's CARES funding or ARP funding, you can build it. Really the challenge is finding the correct sources of funding for making a longevity out of it, so it doesn't disappear when the funding runs out. These are the 5 units we built to up in Greater Dayton Premier. You can see the biggest one was DeSoto Bass. There was about 354 units, and that was about probably a 30 or 40 acre complex that we had to build fiber into. One of the things, let me go back here. These were a mix of exterior APs mounted on buildings, and also like Wilkinson Plaza, it was an interior Wi-Fi deployment. The interior Wi-Fi deployments were largely in public spaces. We did not install Wi-Fi units in any private spaces. It's all public hallways and stuff, but they do provide service into the residential areas. Some of the other ones, which were like townhouse applications, we did put outside APs on each building. The APs provide at least some level of service into each residential unit. It may not be perfect and it may not be ideal, but you do have access to the public Wi-Fi in your unit. And then there was some like West Del Terrace, which was a mix of a tower and some townhomes. West Del Terrace for us was a great opportunity because we got to do our first fixed wireless deployment. So it's a combination of fiber and fixed wireless because we couldn't lay fiber to all the buildings fast enough. One of the things that I think our Unicity team is most proud of, and this is only about a month, 3 weeks old, this data, people are using it. The amount of data that we saw, we've done this type of application at probably, like I said, a dozen locations, but we've done it at a couple of housing communities in the Kentucky area also. We were literally shocked about how much data people were using. I mean, these are people who had no access to internet before us coming there. And there's about 800 units in Dayton. And what you're seeing here is the data, the daily data usage, or excuse me, the daily logons for these housing complexes. 636 users on average every day with about an hour and 17 minutes worth of usage. So, one of the other things spoken to earlier is, we felt you could not just provide internet without devices. So part of this program also included distributing 1,000 Chromebooks to the residents of every one of these locations. So we had Chromebook sign-up days. So they would come up and pick up a Chromebook. We would log them on. We would register them. We would show them how to use it, portal. And what you're seeing here is the high-level data of what CareSource and others are seeing, so they can start beginning direct, marketing from a telehealth perspective and all this. And this is to communities that didn't have access to this before. And I was kind of shocked. Somebody earlier made the comment too on, I think, the PCs for People, of how many people we found out in these areas never had any level of PCs in their life. They didn't have email accounts. I mean, we never thought signing people up would be hard because they didn't have email accounts. So, we had to learn through the process. We learned a lot, but, we anticipate in 2021 probably doubling our activity in this arena. And, I think we'll right now we probably have close to 400 public access points on our roadmap for this year with communities. It's not stopping, and, I think it's going to grow for the future because it is a fairly affordable way to get public Wi-Fi into communities. So, Peter, with that, I think that's all I got.
That's great. Thank you so much. It's so great to hear all of the exciting projects that you're working on. And again, I want to stress that this is, you're our first industry activity spotlight. And again, the great thing here is that you've been doing all of this. I know you've had public-private partnerships, but this is, this is outside of Broadband Ohio. This is this is Cincinnati Bell doing these things and doing a great job of just getting internet into the community. So we really thank you for that. So.
Oh, no problem. Appreciate it.
Great. So those are all of the presentations we had for the day, and we are moving into the Q&A section. I have a couple of questions already in the chat, and feel free to add additional questions into the chat. The first is someone asked whether the slide deck would be available to from the participants. So I will ask if everyone can make sure that they email me their slide decks, and then we will make sure that once the Broadband Ohio website goes online, which should be in the next few months, that they will be posted there. So the one thing that I have not been good at, and I will admit, is making the Broadband Ohio presence as known as it should be. We don't have a website up yet. It will be posted up here in the next few months, and we will make sure that those presentations are available to anyone who would like to see them. So if everyone could email me those, I would appreciate it. The second, and this will actually be for Casey, is who actually installed the CBRS equipment for the project?
PCs for People did. We have certified professional installers on our team that travel around the US really and build out networks like this. So if anyone is interested in working together, our team directly designs, delivers, and builds the solution, including tapping our low and no cost computers so we can bring all pieces of digital inclusion to a community.
That's great. And then a follow-up question. Have you found that CBRS performs well in wooded areas, or does it only seem to perform well in more plains areas like Northwest Ohio?
Trees are fine. Big brick buildings are bad. Mountains and valleys are bad, but trees are fine.
Gotcha. That's great. I will see if there are any other questions in the chat, and then I may ask one or two before we finish up for the day. Well, let me ask one or two questions. So I'll ask Superintendent Mann, if you're still on, how has this project kind of changed the community? Have people been talking about it? How is it, what's the community response to the PCs for People project?
So I think we mentioned it as in a small area, but the financial piece of it is a big piece to our community. It almost like, excuse me, it's almost like, can we really get internet for $15? Yes, you can. And the stuff there, and with the people jumping in and helping, they know that's how bad that they want it. I'm telling you, we put it on a farm. Farmers around here don't give up land or property for anything. So to allow someone to come in there and set up a tower, it shows that it is a big problem. And, when the news story that came out when Lieutenant Governor was here had a couple students saying that last year it took them forever to send an email. They couldn't get on a Zoom call because it would just spin. But the community is slowly seeing this, and we've been kind of making sure that the area, the green map that he showed earlier, is covering those people. And it's going to make a tremendous difference in this community. And I hopefully with that kind of aspect, it also might start bringing more business to our area.
Sure. That's great.
And one note on the $15 a month, our average recipient is a family of 3 living on about $16,000 a year. So that's really the max of the budget. Anything above that becomes unaffordable. So it's interesting to think about the perspective of the average price, but that's the max. It's something that people can prioritize. They've never had it before, can open a new world of opportunity, but that is really the max threshold of affordability for the families we're working with.
That's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both so much. And let me move over to Dana really quickly. Dana and Ted, have you had an opportunity to talk to anyone who has the Starlink service? And have you had any comments about how that service is working?
Yeah, it's a great question. And Ted, I invite you to chime in. We have followed up. I think Ted most recently. The service is good. Like I said, a couple of the folks we went to had 3 or 5 megabits of download speed, went to 100. What they did say though is that there was like one time a day where there could be an intermittent drop. So if they were on a Zoom call, they might lose it. I have that actually on my broadband here at home, so it's I'm not. But they were very pleased, and they're all now able to work and coexist in the same house. Pulling on the same pipe, substantially. So. And I attribute that to the continuing launch of new satellites. I think we'll continue to improve that. And you saw that they're launching literally almost every week. So I think that will continue to be a problem. And then they're also talking about increasing the speeds, The other, if you looked at the slide that I showed, the ground-based stations, they're also building those out. And right now, that the closest ground-based station I think we were told is in Wisconsin, so it adds a little bit of latency. We were seeing, I think, what, Ted, 40 to 50 milliseconds, and they think that it'll be much lower than that. Even that would even be able to handle online gaming and things like that for kids that do Xbox and other that. So I'm blown away at the simplicity of it, as well as the the uptime and the speeds. I've been very pleased, and I think they are too. The alternatives weren't very good. So
I would just add, we knew when we started it's a pilot, and the users have confirmed with measures and metrics that issues in speed and latency that they ran into at the beginning progressively improved over time, exactly the way the company said it would. So just like Dana said, the more satellites they put in the air, the more they tune the system, users are experiencing more and more consistency and speed, and latency is going down as time goes on. Bottom line is, a lot of families are thrilled because they're getting access to speeds they've never had before, and it's making a big difference.
And one of the users that we're talking about is an IT gentleman. So he knew more about it, I think, than even we did. So he was very technical, understood exactly what was going on. So he was a good user case, because he really put it to its paces where maybe a non-industry player wouldn't be able to do. So
that's great. Yeah, I remember that I just remember that when when the Starlink pilot project got announced, that people were really excited, because like we said, it's interesting that here's a suburban area that's right near Honda, right near the 33 corridor, and you would think that they would have good service, but they just didn't. They just didn't have service, and Starlink really did answer that call and help them out. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, I do have two other questions that have come in. They are both Starlink questions. And the first one is there a possibility of doing a Starlink pilot in rural southeastern Ohio to test accessibility function speed for those remote areas of the state that have significant foliage cover, as well as lack of access to cell phone and download and app instructions? I think that's the first question is there any way to do a Southeast Ohio pilot with Starlink?
Yeah, we, like I said, Starlink picked the area. I think we've confirmed, Ted, that they do see now Southern Ohio as part of their satellite array.
I understand the Athens area is turned on at this point in time.
And we, Peter, have spoken to OU about that, possibly doing one. We do. So the negatives of Starlink is it prefers to not have to compete with trees, but it can. It just, it just slows it down a bit. The one thing, though, that is, very difficult is any power line. So if you happen to be living under a transmission line, or it has to apparently the electric field causes an interruption in the signal. So that's one thing we found, but we have Ted and I have discussed reaching back out to see if maybe we can do something, but I think people are open to order the dish now. Like I said, I'm seeing folks going out and ordering it. So there's really nothing, I don't think, stopping anybody from anywhere in the state actually applying to get get possession of a dish.
Sure. So let me ask one other quick Starlink question. Has anyone approached Starlink about using the Information Technology Centers, or ITCs, or ORNet as a ground station to trade off for lower cost K-12 services?
Wow, somebody's on it. Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we offered that as a, because like I said, everybody's clamoring. So we offered, to consider that, and I think that's an option for backhaul and other things. So absolutely, and we did bring that up, and we just wanted to get the first flight of this going, and then we felt like we could circle back and add other features to it, to the arrangement with Starlink.
Great. All right, one quick question is, will we share the recording of this event? The answer is yes. Again, when we have the website up, it will be shared. Let me ask a question of Lydia. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, we've talked about the Telehealth Pilot project, but can you talk about how it wasn't just getting the schools up, but what were some of the things that happened to the rooms in each of these buildings? What did the rooms look like before the Telehealth Pilot project, and what do they look like now?
Sure. So the room that you saw on the picture that I said was at Swiss Hills, which is our career center, that was a storage closet. It housed shelves of books and outdated Title I materials that we were able to get dispensed of, but it literally turned a closet into a very comfy area for our clinicians to work. I don't think that anyone would have believed that it was a storage closet. Some of the buildings are using areas that were conference rooms, some have offices, but most of them literally were either storage rooms or closets that have been turned into it. We were able to use funds for everything, painting the walls, any, you know, doors, windows that needed to be added, decor in the room that was more friendly. We had an excellent partnership with OSU Wexler Medical that came down and did a walkthrough of all of our buildings. They were able to provide us input about what we should add in each room, what equipment. I guess that was another thing I didn't really highlight. If I were to share this room with you, we have a video phone, we have the laptops, of course, and we have a flat screen TV and a camera to track and monitor movement in the room so that the student that may be in this room or the counselor can connect really real time, no lag at all to get those telehealth services completed. And it's opened the door up. So we're funded through this year, but to think about, we say phase 1 and phase 2, but think about phase 3 and 4 for the district. We're already looking at partnering with someone, not just with behavioral health, but for a medical, to bring some medical care to our students and our staff. Even myself, if I need to go to the doctor, I'm driving at least an hour or so. So this really has opened up doors beyond just telehealth and connecting our counselors.
That's great. Well, I'm going to ask one more question. Thank you for that, Lydia. I really appreciate it. And again, we're very excited that we always say that this is our flagship project because it was really the thing that kicked off Broadband Ohio. So we are so happy for your success and for how well it's going in the area. So I have one more question. This is for David Kramer. You know, Cincinnati Bell has been doing these great things about expanding. What would it take to help you expand more, right? What would it take to help you replicate your success in Montgomery County or with Breck and really move it out into the next phase?
I'll be honest with you, Peter, we've got a ton of opportunities on the table. Word of mouth has helped a lot, but you know, the realization that we're a willing partner in a public-private partnership, if somebody's interested, is probably first and foremost, because I think when I have these public-private partnerships, everybody sees big dollar signs, and it's really not as bad as people think. So, you know, word of mouth has helped a lot. So, I mean, get the word out. I mean, you know, Ted Heckman on the call, myself, we'd love to talk to communities. We are edging out. We do get, you know, we have gotten a lot of response. We just announced another partnership last week for 40,000 doors, you know, so that's obviously a big fiber to the home partnership for us, but, you know, word of mouth, getting people to understand the concept of, you know, we can help you, you know, build fiber to the residents, the businesses, and it's really not as expensive as people think, you know, in a partnership scenario. So I mean, I think word of mouth and just getting that out, and you know, and then, you know, obviously I think you know what Lieutenant Governor said earlier, the state funding. You know, I think there are huge opportunities to continue to expand the public-private partnership. To build fiber, whether it's fixed wireless or fiber or anything else. I think those are huge opportunities for the future too.
That's great. Well, we look forward to working with you in the near future. And speaking of state funding, one really quick thing for those on the phone, there is a piece of legislation called House Bill 2 that is moving through the process right now that actually contains about $210 million to be able to expand broadband capabilities into unserved and underserved areas. So most of the projects that we've talked about today are all about that, unserved and underserved areas. And so we're really hoping that that legislation passes through the Senate over the next couple of weeks. And then I'm hoping to be reaching out to all of you again and really talking about how we can work together to expand broadband out into those areas. And I want to, before we finish up, I would like Patrick Smith, who is on the call, if he will take just a moment to introduce himself. He is my coworker. He is the other half of Broadband Ohio and has been doing a great job. So Patrick, if you are there, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
No, Peter, appreciate the opportunity, and I really appreciate everybody that jumped on today for this first Broadband Ohio Alliance call. So I'm Patrick Smith. I am the Assistant Chief of the Broadband Ohio office. I can't say enough for having the opportunity to work with Peter and everybody on this call. There really is a lot of exciting momentum and important work happening. So look forward to staying in touch with all of you. And I know, Peter, you've shared the Broadband Ohio at development.ohio.gov email address. Please don't hesitate to reach out, share any information, or ask any questions. We're happy to kind of follow up and look forward to future conversations. Thanks, Peter.
Great, thank you, Patrick. So last two things, my last two plugs before we switch around, before we let everybody go, basically, is one is the Marx Tower Pilot Program is due this Friday. If you are still interested or have questions, you can still ask us questions. The grant applications are due Friday, so if there's anyone on the call who's thinking about it, please get those in. We did get a question about, can we auto send the presentation to attendees? We will do that. We can make sure that anyone who is an attendee will have that presentation, the presentations once I have them from everybody. And then Patrick, we have talked about when the next Broadband Ohio Alliance meeting is, and I cannot remember it for the life of me off the top of my head. So if you can let everybody know when that meeting is, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, we haven't set a firm date, but we're looking at the end of July and then potentially into September. So as we kind of talked about, the idea is every quarter. So appreciate everybody that jumped on. Really was great numbers, and certainly anticipate it growing from here. And if you have ideas or different things about great presentations, we certainly are always interested in hearing what those thoughts are. So
that's right. Well, and thank you once again. I want to say thank you to all of our presenters. Thank you to Scott Mann, Casey Sorensen, Lydia Brodegar, Dana Saucier, and David Kramer, and Ted Griffith and Ted Heckman, who are also here. Ted Griffith from Jobs Ohio and Ted Heckman from Cincinnati Bell. Thank you all so much for your willingness to participate. Thank you very much to the Lieutenant Governor for his opening remarks. Thank you to Lydia Mahalik, Director of the Development Services Agency, for her remarks. I very much appreciate everyone's time, and we will get you the presentations and an announcement of when the next meeting is. Thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your day.